Greetings, anyone who's been unfortunate enough to stumble upon this channel. I feel like we could talk about hair and Procreate. I've been starting out using the Jing Sketch edge control brush a lot. I mean, I guess you could use different ones, but this is one I've been kind of addicted to using. It has a nice chalky feel. And I'm just being really loose. I could always lower the opacity if need be, because later I'm just going to smudge the hell out of all of it. Of course, you could also just change the size to get a little bit finer details. But I also use the sketch brush for that, or just a pencil brush for those really fine details. And if I'm feeling really lazy, I'll just use a brush that's tailored for that, like a touch-up brush that comes stock with Procreate. But for now, I'm still relying on the edge control brush. As you can see, I'm smudging the hell out of a lot of this. I tend to make a lot of layers too. I'm a very, I'm a very cautious person, or cowardly one, I guess you could say. For the highlights, the same principle applies. I use the edge control brush, and then as a large brush that is, and then I shrink it to make finer details. Basically what I'm doing is I'm building up highlights. So this won't be the lightest color, I'll get even lighter, but for now, I'm basically just repeating the same process I did earlier, so we could speed this up as well. So once again, fast and loose, same way that we started, but with a much brighter color to give it that sheen look, that studio beauty photography look, basically. I also like using the edge control brush as an eraser as well. It gives you a nice chalky gradient erase look to it. And of course, for the fine details, I just use a pencil brush basically. I mean, it's tedious, but I think it gives you a bit more control. Obviously, if you're working on something with a really tight deadline, probably can't do that, but I'm not. I'm working 2 crappy paying jobs, so well, actually I don't have much free time at all, but I can squeeze time to do this during breaks. Of course, working on a subject with darker hair is a lot easier because you don't really have to get away with showing as many strands. So we could always try someone with lighter hair, like somebody with lighter red hair or something. This one's reference from a model from a website I can't show on YouTube. Let's keep it at that. As you can see though, the principles or the technique basically remains the same. Even on somebody a little bit more stylized, I mean, I'm pretty much operating the same way. Also, having a ton of layers, which if you can spare it in Procreate, which that'll depend on your canvas size, is super beneficial. Really easy to separate clumps. A lot of this is just a combination of using pencil brushes and brushes specifically designed for hair, like the ones that you find in the touch-up panel or the touch-up section in Procreate. and it just is kind of like a grind, you know, just you keep, well, saying stroking and stroking sounds a little weird, but you get the idea. I picked the short hairbrush and use in combination with the smudge tool to kind of blend the hair in a little bit more to make it look a little blurrier, not quite as much, so it doesn't look like it's some kind of cap, basically like a baseball cap. It sometimes gives pretty nice results. I wasn't really feeling it here, so I wound up having to use the edge control brush to erase some of that. You could also use the smudge tool to create fine little hairs by smudging with that same hairbrush tool. As you can kind of see that me doing right here. I mean, it's tricky. You don't really have much control compared to using an individual tiny like pencil brush or something, but it's like a quick and dirty method, I guess. Contrary to pretty much every fashion and beauty photograph you've ever seen, I like to actually add individual strands and flyaway hairs. It makes it look a bit more believable to me. Well, that's because it is more believable. Usually that stuff has to be edited out in photographs, but I like adding it in paintings. Kind of weird, I guess. Highlights will be done pretty much exactly the same way they were done in the previous example, using a large brush, in this case the edge control brush, to lay down the basic areas of where the highlight's going to be, and then you just go over it with finer details. Of course, I also like to smudge the hell out of it in a zigzag pattern to kind of create the strand look. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it's a quick and easy way to create a quick highlight look, I guess you could say. It's probably not the best way to phrase it. Other times though it doesn't. I just go do that individually with the pencil brush and create the strands myself. And now for curly hair, a poorly represented segment in digital art. It's definitely a bit more of a challenge, so I could kind of see why. But this one I had probably the most fun with, as I was able to toy around with the create a brush feature in Procreate and try to see what would work and what wouldn't. I created several swirly looking brushes that I'll post a link to in the description in order to achieve varying looks, like for example large paint daubs, which I feel I need to tweak because they're a little too hard edged for my taste. You'll notice I start to smudge out the edges a bit there. I also made a very fine tiny brush as well for those fine little curls that I'll start adding toward the end. You'll notice I start out big, just getting basic color, in this case the rim lighting, from the yellow background or yellowish background. And as I progress, I start picking finer and finer brushes to further get that little bit of detail. And you'll notice it toward the end with the really tiny curly brush. I swirl around and dab the brushes a little bit to try to get a different pattern. And I just keep going over and over with a very low opacity to build color. Well, to build highlights in this case. And of course I use a very low opacity. I really should have created a brush with softer edges. I'm not really feeling the hard edge, but I can just smudge it, I guess. No big deal. Once again, thank you for all 3 of you for listening to this hair tutorial. I could definitely do more, and I'll probably get around to doing it sometime in the future. I do this stuff in between my 2 jobs, so you'll have to bear with me. I definitely think I should tackle braided hair and dreaded hair, and I'll get around that eventually. Or at least I hope I will. I'll probably wind up just forgetting, I guess. Anyway, thank you. And I guess I should say the obligatory like and subscribe, but honestly, you don't really have to do any of that.